Scrappy peeps, Suzanna here today to share with you this layout that I created. It's sort of part 2 in a series, only it's a long, lengthy series. This is my summer home sweet home layout. So back in the spring with a Cocoa Daisy kit, I created my spring home sweet home. That's the layout there that I just put aside. And I've now taken a picture of that same front of my house, only in summer. And I wanted to create a summer layout, and hopefully in a couple of months I'll be able to get a similar picture to do fall, and then later on also do winter. So I had a hard time matching the colors of the roof to the roof from spring, but I also realized that the colors of the roof may actually be different because we now have a new roof. So really the colors are more of the grass and the tree. The other difference in this picture too is that main branch that you can kind of see close up that's blocking the lower part of the roof, the awning over the front porch, my husband trimmed off, so that will no longer be there. So I went with the Family Fun collection by Elle Studio because it had a sentiment that said home sweet home, and you can see on the tag that's in the spring layout there was a journal card from Simple Stories that said home sweet home that I had fussy cut apart. So what I'm realizing in this endeavor is that I might have a hard time continuing the home sweet home theme from one season to another, but who knows, I might be able to find something for fall. We'll see. So I decided to go with the blues and the grays. You can see in the spring collection that I went with sort of the pink, the ecru, and the gray. And so I thought that the blues and the greens brought out the blue, the colors in the pictures of the flowers that are growing in our front garden, as well as just the colors of the roof and the greenness of the grass, the lush greenness of the grass. So I tried to stick to the same concept of that same first picture, but also make it unique to the paper collection. And I initially thought I was going to use that double strip there with the words that say love right now, love us, love this, sort of fun family sentiments. And I liked the way that the black up across the top of this particular picture emphasized and gave weight to the picture. It sort of sealed the deal between the header and the footer. So this tag was in the ephemera pack, as well as that die cut that said home sweet home, and I wanted to use it in a similar way as I had used it on the other layout, but knew that this tag was bigger and home sweet home was in a slightly different format than what I had used on my spring layout. And I know that pieces are going to vary from collection to collection, so I was willing to roll with that, and I was going to have to make some adaptive changes, and that was fine. So I used a house on the bottom of the layout. You can see there one of the die cuts from the Elle Studio Family Fun collection instead of the little planter. And I didn't have a smaller tag, so I turned this journal card, you can see here. Sorry, this is off the edge of the screen here. I've got more my trimmer than the mat, and I didn't realize that. You saw, I'm not sure if you saw earlier, but I knocked the camera by accident. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just marking the same tag that was on the spring layout to trim it down to a similar size to put next to that little house there. So I'm just going to keep the diagonal stripe at the bottom and use that to turn it into a tag for my journaling on this layout. So I'm just marking the corners, and then I'm going to trim those off by hand with my scissors and use the same cut part so that I have the same symmetry, and voila. And then I just had used pencil, so used an eraser to erase off the pencil lines. Then I saw these acrylic pieces, and I really thought maybe a house next to a house and or one of the hearts would look good. But if you don't put these acrylic pieces on a lighter cardstock or white, they lose the opaqueness, and so it wasn't going to work with the particular pieces that I had chosen to use here. So I have on my spring layout, I've got home on either side of sweet and home. So I wanted to put something on either side of that tag. It just feels like this huge eyesore in the middle of the top of that page, and I wanted something. I also have a bit more of a header up the top there, and so feel that I also need to fill that in just a little bit. But in the meantime, I am scrambling to find my pencil that I'd lost so that I could just mark the center of this tag and punch it in the center, which I don't actually do, but that's okay because I knew I wanted one of those little circle hole things. I forget what they're called. You know when you punch a hole and you put the little reinforcer, a hole reinforcer. So I knew I wanted a hole reinforcer around the top of that tag, and by being able to put that in, I was able to recenter the tag that wasn't centered. And I really liked the way that that green stripe looked against the blue, which made me decide to bring a little bit more green into the layout. It was not originally one of the colors that I was going to choose. So on my spring layout on the right hand side, I have two little tags or stickers, and one says good times, the other says can't get enough with a heart. And so I wanted a few stripes or stickers to go over on that right hand side in this summer layout as well. So I have this puffy sticker from the Elle Studio Family Fun collection that says there's no place like home, which is perfect, but you couldn't see the blue on the blue, so I just backed it with a little bit of white paper to make it pop and stand out and a little bit more visible. So in my spring layout, I have a bunch of hearts. It's actually a trio of hearts that sort of tie everything together. So I also tried to get hearts through this layout to tie all of that together as well. And I'm digging for the other sentiment that I want to put here. It's on green and it's hard to see, but you do see it much better when you're looking at the actual layout. And that green sentiment says around here. So again, I really wanted to use some of these acrylic pieces. I just couldn't make them work on this layout. I think this is definitely, those are pieces that are definitely going to have to be used on something with a white background. So I did try a second time. Now I'm going to put them away and use my puffy stickers that I got. So adhere those down. Happy with where they're at. Now to figure out the top of this layout. So I know I want that black strip up there, and just trim that off and commit to these. So there's that hole reinforcer that I knew I wanted to use, and I knew I had this bit of gray. But now I'm distracted by what's going up top. So I thought to add some weight to this that maybe I would put banners coming out of either side of the tag, which I thought was a good solution, but I needed to find a color. And then what I discover is that that hole between the banners and the top of the paper is annoying, and I need to figure out a better balance in that. And now I'm distracted again by that hole. So you can see the circle punch that I got there, which is the perfect size for a hole reinforcer. Punch that out, stick that on first, and then you can center the hole on the tag. So that covers up the hole it was not centered. Get my hole punch, and it happens off camera, I'm sorry. And I think it got stuck into the hole punch. There we go. Punch the hole in the paper first, then use the corner rounder, and voila. So I got some twinery twine in the blue variegated version and stuck that through the tag just as I had done on the spring layout, only I had used a solid twine instead of the variegated. So commit to that and adhere that down, and then put the little house and the heart on my spring layout had been to the left-hand side of the flower planter. It wasn't going to work on this layout, and that's okay because a little bit of variation is fine. It's just nice to see the evolution of my house, from spring to summer and then fall to winter. And I suspect that my winter picture will actually come from the year 2018, probably not 2017. Here in Virginia, we don't really get snow until the latter half of the winter, so these pictures will not all be taken from the same year. Conceivably, actually, I could go back and do winter from January of 2017 to keep them all in the same year, but I was hoping to do it in order: spring, summer, fall, winter. So now I'm going through the 6x6 paper pack because I have that gap. I know I want to put the banner sticking out of that tag, but I would need to fill the top of that space with something. So it's either going to be this lighter blue with the polka dots, which I like, or this dark blue plaid, or this gray plaid. They're all viable options, and I end up going with that gray because it's lighter and it's more of a subtle pattern, which allows you to keep your focus on that big picture of the house. That's why I went with that. And so what I didn't realize here is that when I put it in, I thought if I folded it in half that it would be perfect out of each side of the tag, and I should have tried it before I did it. But you will realize, just as I do, that these strips aren't wide enough. See? Big gap behind the tag there. So what I end up having to do is just trim off part of this and stick it back on that left-hand side there, and then use the other piece and close up that gap there. And you can't see because it's so close to the tag that, again, you don't notice that. But I did want that whole of the tag because I was not going to put twine in there to not show picture. So I just trimmed that off. If you look closely, you can actually see where I've joined those two pieces of paper behind the hole in the tag, but it's not a big deal to me. So the tag goes directly down onto the layout. I'm just finding the center and trying to match the hole over the center. And then just as I did in the Home Sweet Home, Sweet is popped up off the page. I'm going to pop up Home Sweet Home with some Scotch foam adhesive there. I have to trim out a couple of holes in the foam adhesive because the letters are trimmed exactly around each letter. So then that will go on top of the tag. Oops, need a third piece there. And once I get that on top of the tag, then I'm going to just sort of clean up the layout and try and get the hearts in that I had, that trio of hearts. I do journal on the tag, and I don't do that on the video. On the spring layout, the title of the tag actually said currently loving, and then I wrote 3 things in to fill that line in. This particular layout, I just journaled about the front of our house in summer, and I said, summer brings color to the front garden. This year we had to plant new evergreens for the front porch. So one of the things you'll notice in the front porch of the spring layout is there's 2 evergreen trees. Those have been there since we moved in, and they were dying, so we ended up having to buy 2 new ones, and we bought 2 new planters with them too. So this is where I put the banner in behind Home Sweet Home, again, just to add a little bit of symmetry between both layouts and for the pop and the blue of the banner to to bring out the pop of sweet in this particular tag. So puffy hearts, these are not from the Family Fun collection. They were something I ordered at the same time that I ordered the Family Fun. And so there's a green heart, and you can see how I bring the green from the bottom up to the top of the layout as well. And that, my friends, is the end. So there's both layouts side by side and then a couple of close-ups. If you have any questions, please do ask in the box down below. If you're not a subscriber, I would love to have you join me, and I love all your comments and try and answer as soon as I can. Thanks for stopping in today. Take care.